Welcome back, CruiseHols, or hello if you're new to this channel. Where in this video I will compare MSC Cruises with the Norwegian Cruise Line to decide which is the best. I have been fortunate enough to sail with both MSC Cruises and Norwegian Cruise Line, and in the main I have enjoyed both lines. As with everything, there were some things that I enjoyed about both lines, there were some things that I didn't like, and there were plenty of things that were in the middle. On the face of it, I would say that the experience is relatively similar, as both have their base fare that gets you so much, but there are lots of things on their ships that cost more money to be able to enjoy. For the transparency of this post, I have sailed on board the Norwegian Bliss, the Norwegian Spirit, and the Norwegian Prima for NCL, and only on board the Virtuosa for the MSC line. So all of my thoughts are based on my experiences of sailing on those ships with the lines, as well as with my interactions in terms of researching them both before cruising with them and continually since, just which is the best line and why. That's just what I'll look at in this video, so if that sounds of interest for you, don't forget to like, subscribe and leave in the comments below which is your favourite cruise line, MSC or NCL. My name is Darren, and this is my comparison of the MSC Cruise Line and the Norwegian Cruise Line. This is a tricky one to judge on, as I've had a variety of experiences with Norwegian, and although I should say that the overall pre-cruise experience with Norwegian has been poor. For one booking, I injured myself just before cruising and asked to move my cabin to be nearer to the lifts, but stayed in the same price category, and I was told that I would have to pay a huge fee to do so. Although it should be said that once on board, and they noticed my injury, they did offer to do it for free, but as I'd already unpacked and that took a lot of effort, it just wasn't worth it. For another cruise, me and my wife had issues booking online as the NCL website wasn't working, so we had to phone to book with them. But those same gremlins kept cropping up when we had to try and book excursions through them later. When I rung for this, it was a struggle to book what I wanted, as the agent was only interested in trying to get me to upgrade things. I should also say that our first booking with them went smoothly, although that was my actual first ever cruise, so maybe it was just I didn't quite know how things should have worked and how much better it could be. For MSC, my biggest issue with them pre-cruise is the lack of what you can do before you board the cruise. And that just leaves you with lots to do once you get on board, such as booking into shows, and then that leads to lots of queues and lots of confusion on board. That is really a minor thing, and it's just the way the line works, so at least everybody's in the same boat, so to speak.
Oh brother, this guy stinks!
And for this one, I can only give the point to MSC, as you at least know where you stand with them, whilst with NCL, you just don't know what experience you're going to get. For this one, both lines are quite similar, as you now do it all on the app, and to be honest, it's always been just as straightforward with NCL as it was with MSC. The only differences have come with the terminals itself, where the final bits have to be completed, but that is often down to the port you sail from, instead of down to the line. Thankfully for this, I have sailed with both lines out of the same terminal at the same port, the Horizon Cruise Terminal in Southampton. Whilst my Norwegian cruises have run smoothly, with people arriving at their scheduled times and having hardly any queuing, things were much more chaotic with MSC. And it seemed to me that people just didn't know what they were supposed to be doing, where they were supposed to be, and what time they were supposed to get there. That of course could have just been down to the specific sailing that I was on. But with my research before the cruise, and looking into it afterwards, lots of people were saying it's an ongoing issue for MSC. So for this one, I can only give the win to NCL, although it is so close that it's probably not something you should worry about. When it comes to the entertainment, I am taking into regard all aspects of it, on board the ships, from the production shows to the guest performers, and from those entertaining the bars and lounges to the pay extra shows, and anything else that they have to offer. When it comes to NCL, I have enjoyed some great shows, but also some poor shows. And I've enjoyed great nights watching guest entertainers in the theatre, but then I've also had some of the worst performers we've ever had on board a ship. The singers and musicians performing around the ships have always been strong with NCL, and they were on the Virtuosa, whilst the paid options on board MSC were also good, so this one's incredibly close. With my experiences on board MSC being in the main good, although it should be said it's a bit more limited there, I can only give it to them, as whilst I have enjoyed NCL and enjoyed a lot of what they have had to offer, I've also had some stinkers, to be honest. It should also be said that on my last sailing with them, the main entertainment in the theatre was poor and incredibly repetitive. Norwegian has two distinct onboard experiences, with their larger and newer ships needing plenty to be pre-booked, fewer places to sit and relax, and more activities coming at an extra cost. Their older and smaller ships have a simpler way of cruising, where you are much freer to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, including just turning up to shows in the theatre. On MSC, there are a few more rules when it comes to the dress code and dining times, and there is much more of an expectation to dress up on an evening. They too make you booking for shows and plenty of other things, or at least on their big ships they do from my experience, as pretty much every activity is pay extra with them. One thing that I really do prefer about NCL is that they tend to have more places to sit and relax, including both inside and outside areas, with the boardwalk areas of their Prima class of ships being a great place to spend time relaxing. They also tend to have more musicians in more places, and on a more relaxed atmosphere, which does line up with my style of cruising. So whilst again being close, I'm going to give the win for the onboard experience to Norwegian. Food and drink is a big part of any cruise, as I'm sure you're well aware, and for me and my wife it's a big part of choosing a line in the ship. Our preferred lines offer themed food and drink offerings based on where you are cruising, including offering local dishes in the buffet, local snacks in grab-and-go spots, and even local drinks in bars and cafes. Sadly, that's not really something we've ever had with Norwegian, and didn't have with our sailings on MSC. But NCL do at least offer themed nights on board, with offerings such as Mexican nights and British lunches. MSC's food offering tends to be solely based on Mediterranean dishes, with a few worldwide food options and the odd sprinkling of local dishes from where the ship is based. The quality across the board on MSC was much more consistent for us, as with Norwegian we have had everything from high quality dishes to inedible dishes. It should be said that the quality of food in the dining room and buffet has really dropped off on Norwegian since I started sailing with them. Although in contrast to that, me and my wife are huge fans of their new indulge food hall. So for this one, I'm actually going to give it to Norwegian. They do have a bit more variety, and the NDR is slightly better, but in the end it just comes down to their indulge food hall concept for me, as that tips the scales. But if you're not on a Prima class of ship, it's really a toss-up. At the risk of sounding repetitive, this one is also close between the two lines, as they both have a huge fleet of ships sailing all over the world, with MSC even offering world cruises. Both do have a heavy focus on North America and the Mediterranean, but they do have ships home porting in many different regions, and they do both offer a good range of warm weather and cold weather cruising. I love to explore the remote porting polar regions, and they are sadly areas that get overlooked by MSC. Whilst Norwegian, through their extraordinary journey itineraries, offer lots of opportunities to explore mostly the Arctic region, but also sometimes destinations such as Patagonia. There are regions where MSC offer a much better range of itineraries over Norwegian, such as the Middle East. So when you're looking at it as an overall thing, I must say that in terms of itineraries and ranking for this list, they're pretty much equal. Having said that, one line does need to get the point, and I'm going to give it to Norwegian, as they offer a wider range of places where you can start or end your holidays, including some ports and no other mainstream line used to turn around ships. And with me and my wife loving to explore places before and after our cruises, that just about tips things for me. I have had some great value getaways with Norwegian, and depending on which ship you sail on, you do get plenty for your money when you cruise with them. But their prices have steadily gone up and up and up since I first sailed with them, and whilst that is the case for the industry as a whole, you also tend to get less included in the cruise price, which is a bad combination. MSC also have a business model where they charge you for just about everything on board, with only the basics of food, drink and theatre shows included in the base fare. But then they do offer a low cost base fare in the main, so the added costs make more sense, and make it more like you are just paying to customise your adventure in the way that you would like to cruise. NCL often charge the same or even more than some lines that are more inclusive, and with their standards across the board also less, you just get less for more with them. With their costs going up much faster than their standards, the gap is widening. For this one, there can only be one winner, and it is the only category where it isn't particularly close, and if you haven't guessed yet, the point goes to MSC Cruises for the value of the holiday. So going into this one I expected it to be close, and it proved to be just that, as Norwegian won 4 of the categories, while MSC won 3. As I kept mentioning throughout, just about every category was incredibly close, so it comes down to finding the best itinerary for you at the best price. So overall, the win goes to the Norwegian Cruise Line. And all that remains to be said is thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my look at MSC Cruises versus the Norwegian Cruise Line, which is the best, and see you next time.